Morning, everyone. Guys, you've got to unmute yourselves. We're having a few technical issues here this morning, everyone, with the Zoom, but I'm super excited for this week's episode because it's something we haven't discussed before, and it's about when an instrument is your voice. But I think this will be useful for all producers and everyone out there listening. So my guests today, which I'm very excited to introduce, are Davide Rossi, Hannah V, and Orphy Robinson MBE, no less. MBE. Woohoo! So, guys, I mean, welcome. And I don't even know who to start, because I want to say, like, tell me about yourselves. But with Davide specifically, your background really interests me because I did a little homework on you. I did. Oh, and you actually, I mean, you studied under, I hope I can say this, under Maestro, is it Ivan Krivensky?
No, Krivensky is my first violin teacher. Unfortunately, he died a couple of years ago. But hey, he was an old man.
Oh,
he had a good life.
But like myself, and I'm curious to see if we're all the same. So I started piano at 3.5, and you started violin at 4, correct?
Well, no, I actually started piano at 4, but really wasn't starting piano. I mean, that would make it very sophisticated. I was just playing on some piano on my own because I just loved to play anything. But I started actually quite late, the violin at 10, which is relatively late for a violin.
What about you guys? Orphy, when did you start?
It was a good question because I've changed instruments a few times as a youngster.
Right, there you go. There is that as well.
Yeah. So I first was piano at about 8, but not really as focused as it should be. And then it went to trumpet, unfortunately.
Brilliant.
But then at 11, I went on to tunes percussion, all the percussion instruments in the orchestra. And so from then on, I was kind of glued into that. But funnily enough, at a ridiculous time in my life, for probably 2 years or so, I took up saxophone as well. That became the guiding thing. Part of it was jazz, and that seemed to be obviously the foremost instrument. The second thing was carrying around equipment.
See, the violin is good. You know what I mean?
The voice is even better.
Right. I used to get so jealous of people just going, right, okay, see ya, I'm gone. And then I'd be putting away things for ages. I'd miss everything. So, yeah, I started 2 years, did that for my sins. And I still occasionally dip into a bit of that, the saxophone, and very rarely, a bit of trumpet.
Wow. You are a multi-instrumentalist. So early in the morning, multi-instrumentalist.
Although I suppose the main thing I would love to have been would have been a vocalist.
Interesting.
So it is that thing of vocalizing through the instrument. You know, I can write for vocalists, and I can happily be on stage with them. But
you don't have the gift.
Yeah.
What about you, Hannah? Were you baby as well?
Kind of similar to you, David. So I started piano lessons when I was 5, but it wasn't like serious. You know, it was in India. I don't remember anything about it. And then I really got back into piano lessons when I moved back to Berlin, where I grew up, around the age of 8 or 9. And I was like, you know, classically trained and I was good, you know, like I kind of got to a competing level and all of that. Then I became a teenager and I was just like, nope, because my piano lessons were on a Friday evening, you know. And so I kind of quit, but I went to an international school which had an amazing music department, you know, and that's where I got into jazz. I had a jazz band, played in all the orchestras. I could sight read anything when I was younger, you know. So so I was really lucky to be like in a very musical school, and loads of my friends were musical. So we did the whole being in crappy bands and playing here, and you know, like I think all of those experiences are so important, isn't it? You think you're so great and you actually suck, but it doesn't matter because you're learning about playing together, and you know, you're living music. And so then I came to London to study at the academy, and I studied jazz, and you know, and then my path took me, you know, to being a session musician and now to being a producer. So, but, you know, I think it was quite young when I was about 13, 14, where I knew I was going to, like, the piano was my instrument and that was what I was going to do, you know?
It's really interesting when you think about all of our past, because I try and tell the kids in the younger community right now that it's really important to get your grounding, to go out, do your gigs, to play those crappy venues.
Absolutely.
Do everything. Don't try and just jump to things. Truth is, I mean, doing a horrible gig with a few people is way harder than walking out on a stadium with everyone just goes "Rah!" when you step out on the stage. I mean, that's easy. If you can tackle those pubs and those dives with the top audiences, you can do anywhere, can't you, basically?
Absolutely. And that's the practice that you need. That's where you build your chops. You know what I mean? And I think that's always the only difference between like a real professional and amateur is like we've been doing it for longer. That's it. You know, it's the experience. It's not even the technical prowess or anything like that. It's being able to deal with situations like all of a sudden the power going off or something, you know, and you've got 8 bars until the next big piano thing, and you have to figure it out. Like those things that we've all seen on stage. And I learned those in school, you know, like things go wrong all the time, of course, when you're on unprofessional stages, basically, where nobody knows what they're doing. And you learn to deal with it, you know, you learn to stay calm, you learn the poker face, you know? Smile, smile, smile. Don't let anybody know that you're freaking out.
Even
That's
singing
what I'm doing now.
wrong lyrics, I don't know. I am not singing anything.
You know, like performance, it's you have to practice it, you know?
I'm really interested about this one point though. We've all come from classical backgrounds. So what made us morph into the pop world? Is it just cool factor, rock and rollness? And also, why didn't we stay on that classical thread? And also, for in 2 of your instances, for specifically, it's jazz, which I have a great envy of because I can't do jazz, and I wish I could. I always put it down to the fact that I was too classically trained as a pianist. So, David, why did you do that?
Well, I have to say, because, well, you know, I studied in Italy, and I think when we started conservatory at 10, at 11, so you start with secondary school, right? So, which was great, and it's amazing, but it's also very conservative and a little bit strict. So I was very lucky. I got a really great violin teacher, but in itself, the school was pretty depressing, I would say. So I would go out and do bands because I found it a bit more joyful and less pressured and more free, you know. And also the creative factor of, you know, there is nothing like a band to just put the parts together, work a piece of music out. In classical music is a little bit limited. I mean, there is another way of doing it, but it's very structured, you know. And so that's it. But at the same time, I never really lost the feeling and the love for classical. But I had to definitely get out. You know what I mean? As a violin.
Sorry, go on. When you were at college, yes, did you find yourself playing violin to pop music? Or was it very segregated?
No, I mean, it was very segregated. I mean, I remember in my school specifically, if you were caught doing something else, you could be kicked out.
Oh my God!
I mean, that's how strict it was. So for me, I joined the band, and I remember when I was 15, and I wasn't even playing the violin, I was playing the keyboard, and then I started to get on other bands playing the violin and get into that, and not until 4 or 5 years later, I think you know, I think my teacher saw me on TV, so I couldn't lie.
Ouch!
Anymore. So I like, oh, so
Wow,
and then he was like, and I was really
ouch.
shitting myself. He was shitting myself, and he was like, oh, that was great. It was a fuck off, you know.
I didn't expel you.
No, of course. I mean, I think there is an element. It's very strict. I think that the classical music in the conservatory, I'm talking about Italy, but I get classical music is very, you know, the discipline required to build a, you know, that kind of competition level, as you said, Hannah, you know, to be able to do a Mozart competition or any international, it's just a little bit, it's like a bit like circus training, you know, it's like this and this. So it's very little, plus it's very busy. I don't know, it's many hours. So I was glad that I made time to do something else. And I really, after, you know, when I got my degree, my diploma, I started studying with other, you know, I was into, you know, Romania music, because I went to see the Trustee, which are really kind of gypsy, incredible musicians, which play with string instruments, but they do kind of it's almost like a Balkanic bluegrass. You know, you have jazz, they improvise, and that all comes from the tradition of Bela Bartok. You know, it's always been crossover and merged. It's never been classical music. You know, even Mozart was getting melodies from you know, from the pop culture of the time. I mean, it's kind of interesting that to me, anyway. So
I love it. I absolutely. This is so just brilliant to hear these stories. So, Orphy, what about yourself? Do you think I mean, were you college trained? How did you get really into the market?
Okay, so the youth orchestra, the local youth orchestra that I was in for 5-6 years or something, was a quite high level sort of thing. So I got quite extensive discipline, I'd call it, training within that. And also there was competition element and and soloist and all of that. And I think I got to about, I'll tell you what year, 1977. I won every soloist competition in the UK.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
So I thought maybe I should take this a bit serious, because I'd been kind of, I was into all different music. You know, you get to that age where you discover, you know, Earth and Fire and, you know, disco music and, you know, all of those things. I was always into anyway. But I started to think of bands. I'd love to do something like that, you know, not this large scale 50, 60 people and then, you know, all that sort of world. And with a group of friends, I'm a roller skater, although I stopped 2 years ago, but I used to roller skate all the time.
I had to listen back then and say, did he just say roller skate?
Same.
Did I hear that correctly?
I lived on roller skates, believe me.
You could play your saxophone and roller skate around, Orphy. I'd pay good money.
Well, it could be quite dangerous. I don't think I'm going to do that. But yeah, so, you know, you'd go clubbing, the roller disco type thing, and you'd hear all the music. And the group of friends that I was with, we spent a lot of time going, can you hear the horn section on that track? Did you hear the strings? Check the arrangement. So that was coming more of a thing. And then a few of us decided to create a band. And we thought we were good. Like when Hannah was saying, we thought we were good. But it wasn't until I heard a musician, Roy Ayres, a vibraphone player, on a record in a club that I shouldn't be in because I was underage, in a club, and thought, wait a minute, even the girls like this. I'm going to have to check this out. And you know, what can I say? That led me to the other side so much that I can remember a teacher telling me, and I still remember this, he said, you're not focused enough, you're listening to too many things, you're so disturbed that you won't amount to anything in music, you might even end up as a jazz musician.
Oh, dude.
What can I say? You know. So yeah, it was things like that. But I mean, I was always just into music. You know, I'd listen to anything, absolutely anything, and I still do.
That's what Orphy you say about the clubs though, because I know myself, I used to sneak into clubs younger, but just because I wanted to hear the music.
Right, yeah.
Really weird. I like the music, I like the way that it made me feel.
Yes, yeah. And I think, although, you know, could be controversial, but a lot of the kind of more popular things were a lot more musically advanced than what we hear now.
Yes. No,
that's true, actually.
Correct.
In a way.
Yeah,
well,
I mean, for me, guys, I mean, seriously, I love string arrangements. And I mean, I think it's so sad now. And all the arrangements that we used to have of the live bands, which seem to be so limited on our music now because of budget.
Yes.
I mean, for me, okay, I might be wrong here. I mean, I listen to really diverse tastes and I love jazz as well. But the Bee Gees, down, dab, 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 da, 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 da. I mean, I can sing it's Staying Alive, isn't it?
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah.
Somebody's going. That, I mean, for me, I can sing all of that percussion and string. I know it off by heart, and I think it's absolute piece of genius. It is genius. I mean, I turn it right up on my 1960s downset Bermuda record player, which isn't that loud anyway. But for me, I feel like we're really missing this element of music and the diversity that we used to have. Radio used to play all genres and all different styles, and I feel we've got this like almost like one squidgy style that's main commercial radio right now, and it makes me feel so sad that we can't have all these different styles. Like David, I know you I mean, obviously you work with the Verve, Coldplay. I mean, you're really on that more the guitar tip, which has been almost pushed. Some of those acts have been pushed aside at the moment, haven't they?
Well, yeah, exactly. Not anymore. I mean, you know, because I mean, there is those bands which now seems like dinosaurs, kind of. You know, now I work with a lot of pop artists and stuff like that, but it's more like on a track base rather than an album, you know.
Exactly.
And I'm sure that it's like that for a lot of people. But it's just the way I think the market is at the moment. Everyone can make music with a laptop, kind of. You don't really need the super skill of, you know, of the instrument. It's different sets of skills. I don't know. I'm trying to be open and see the creative side of nowadays music, which obviously has to do more with production, which has to do more without production, without the actual instrument. I don't know.
I feel you, David. I agree. I think that it's opening doors. The way things are now has opened doors to lots of creatives that probably.
Also, I mean, if you think about it,
it is a beautiful thing.
Sorry, I was just saying that.
Sorry, David, you're breaking. No. Sorry, it's breaking in and out. So sometimes I don't know when you're talking. Go on, say what you want to say.
I was just saying that in the past, that what we heard in the radio was just seemed to be like on a higher level because it was more difficult to make music. You know, you had to get a deal. You had to be on a certain level. Now, a lot of people can do stuff and become world great. You know, you can, and that's amazing as well. You know, but there is a lot more music. It's more confusing, I think. I don't know.
I 100% agree with you. But what I think is it's always balance. I love in life, balance. And for all of the kids creating and making their music and doing it all themselves, hooray and amazing, and keep doing what you're doing. But I do miss the other side of having these like creative geniuses coming together and putting string arrangements together, putting percussion, doing orchestral stuff. You know what I mean? I miss all of that. And Hannah, I know you've probably got.
Sorry, no, I've just been thinking as you guys are talking. The one thing I find really, really interesting, because I work in pop, right, is that I find that producers don't know how high musicality can go until one of us is in the room, right? So these are amazing producers, they're doing their thing, and I don't co-produce a lot, but occasionally I'm in a room with another producer, and then I'll be just like, and like for the rest of you guys, it takes me one pass to lay down a piano part. It takes me 2 minutes to figure out an amazing mid-eight, whatever. The stuff is in my blood. It's easy for me, you know? And I can see the penny drop when the producers are like, Hannah, can you give us an option? It's like, yeah, sure, bam, cool. And they're like, hold on. And then in a way their ears are opened, and I found that so many times that so many producers now after one session or with me, they're just like, cool, Hannah, can you help me with this, can you do this? They don't know, people don't know what we can bring to the table, because I think sometimes people are also a bit intimidated by real musicians, you know, trained musicians. It's sometimes a bit of a dirty word, and they think we're going to come in and just play scales all over everything, you know. They don't understand that, especially us lot that work in pop, we know about sensitivity. We it's not about ego, it's not about me showing off that I can do certain things. It's about bringing this extra element to the music. We always serve the song, always, you know, and but we can do it, and so a lot of times I get booked because people know I'm going to get the best musicians on my stuff. Simple, you know, I know them. They're going to jump on the stuff, and even if it's the simplest beat, it doesn't matter. When one of the best drummers is playing it, it just feels different. And I want to believe that people are slowly understanding how important these elements or these people are. For example, someone like Kendrick Lamar uses the best musicians, the best arrangers. You know, Chance the Rapper has amazing jazz musicians on his records. You know, people slowly, maybe not necessarily in this country, but definitely in the States, they value musicians, you know, and they value producers that can bring in those people.
I kind of wish that a lot of the producers I work with would, if they're not the strongest, I mean, I'm very lucky. A couple of the producers I work with are incredible keyboard players as well. But I think for the ones that aren't, I wish they would bring in other musicians to bring other flavors. Like bring you in David, bring you in Orphy, bring you in Hannah. Or do you know what I mean? So that you get more of that. You try and merge modern music with something that's a bit more like the realness and the grandness of something that is not being done so much right now. So how do you guys feel about that, David?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty busy, so I think there is still demand for, and I'm not the only one, and I agree with Anna. There is artists out there and producers out there which have their own team of arrangers and a musician that they know that they will bring some magic, you know, which you can only get with a person with a certain type of skill. So I mean, I don't know, maybe I don't know the producers you're working with, but perhaps, I don't know, actually. I think
I'm probably playing devil's advocate a bit here, David. I'm probably playing devil's advocate, saying things just to encourage people.
Right, I see. No, of course, but there is a lot, as you said, you know, there is a lot of production are in the box production. So, and that's when a label always will put a sort of a budget, cuts and all budget. You know, for myself, for instance, to be successfully as an arranger, I learned to play everything myself. So now I play violin, viola, cello, contrabass, and then I just layer myself. That's my niche, so to speak, you know. And that gave me a lot of success because nowadays with the technology and learning how to do it, it really, I mean, there is never such a thing as going with an orchestra, because you experience the room, so many musicians and instruments. Talking about just, for instance, string on orchestra arrangement specifically. But now I do it in the box myself, but I still play, you know. So there is ups and downs on the way people work. I don't know. It's very.
So do you? So if a band came to you for, and this is applicable to all of you, could they send you a session And is this something that if we've got some viewers that want to become instrumentalists, they need to learn how to possibly record themselves and send the stuff back, as well as being able to work in a studio environment? Do you think both of those are very important?
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt.
I mean, it's a moving, changing world, and where we are at the minute, the lockdown, musicians, I mean, I've been really busy doing loads of sessions from home, you know, lots of different things. And I think we're all, I mean, as composers probably and producers, we're used to working in isolation anyway.
Completely, yeah.
It's no different. It just means we can't pop to the shops to get some little snack or something. We have to think about that and do it in a different way. But so we're used to that. And then we're also used to the live environment of being in studios, going off to studios and doing various different things, whether you're, you know, playing or producing or arranging or whatever. So I think being an all-rounder for people coming into this is probably more advantageous as well. But knowing that, you know, we don't know how long these kind of circumstances will last. So what you can do is to get your things together and, you know, and kind of think of yourself as the studio, as the, you know, as that particular world now.
So for Hannah, obviously it's probably a little more easier because obviously Hannah can just go MIDI. But for you guys, so say if you're an instrumentalist watching this show and you want to work with some friends remotely, is it a little different? Do you need more specialist microphones or any kind of microphone do?
Well, you need some good gear, obviously. Yeah.
Would you need more than a normal studio would have to have, though, a normal basic setup? Do you think?
Well, nowadays you can get a decent setup with not a lot of money. You still need some money. I mean, you still need to have a laptop that costs money, a good microphone, a good, you know, audio to digital interface, or you know, like a good. But that's the basic, you know. Nowadays with the universe, I don't want to, you know, with any, there is like this small transducer, you know, audio to digital interface. They're really small, like Apogee or Universal Audio. I don't know. They're really great, and they have the same preamps of a really. I mean, you can do so much with a lot less. And really good recordings. I mean, I recorded on really, really great records with really shit gear. I mean, now I sort of upgrade.
Your talent and skill, Davide.
But also limitation is such a great limitation. Really pushes you to be creative, you know. And gear limitation. I mean, if you want to do it, if you really got the ideas, I know it sounds a bit naff, but if you got the ideas, you got the will and the passion, you can really do so much, even with limited. And then eventually you learn. Obviously, I got myself so many engineer friends, and I asked them, you know, what you think of that, and, specifically for what I want to do. There is so many things you can do to make it really sound pro, you know.
So, to someone who's just asked a question, sorry, I normally read the questions, but because my laptop isn't working, I'm on the phone, so I'm jammed on this screen. So what I'm thinking we'll do, as the Ivors Academy, I will speak to them and we'll see if we can get a little piece together on basic equipment lists.
That'd be great.
I'll get some advice from the guys, and then we'll post that for anyone who's interested in looking at that, because I do think that's really, really, really helpful. Yeah. So, Hannah, I'm interested. I mean, you got to work with probably one of the two queens right now in music, and you know who I'm talking, Miss Riri, bad girl, bad girl.
Mm-hmm.
How the heck did that happen?
I mean, so I was very fortunate that in many ways I've got like two careers. So I was a session musician for 8 years. And I was in Rihanna's band for a year. So we did world tours. We played, you know, Staples Center with Eminem being our special guest, Madison Square Gardens, the first time I did that. And it was incredible. And the most incredible part about that gig for me was playing with those musicians, playing with the best musicians in the world. Listen, all of us as musicians, that's all we want. All we want is to play with people that challenge us, make us better. You know, and for me, because I was called in last minute because one of her keyboard players had dropped out. So for me, it was the scariest thing, kind of getting a call on a Tuesday, being on a plane on a Friday and not coming home for a year, you know? And just kind of walking into this rehearsal room in LA and everybody's like on their risers and my riser literally has like a keyboard sound and nothing else, and just being like, okay, I need to learn the set really fast, you know? But it was yeah, it's just the caliber of musicians I worked with, and after I kind of settled into the gig, to feel like I was contributing to that space, you know, like that for me, it meant so much to just kind of be like, who am I? I'm some Indian girl from the UK. Like, who am I to be on this stage and actually do my job and feel like I belong? You know, it was amazing. It was incredible.
And it just goes to show this can happen for anyone if you apply.
Yeah.
I think it's this is a good question to ask, guys. So when you're in a situation where you're auditioning like Hannah and you're feeling very nervous and you're trying to think about how to do your best, do you should you show off a little bit, or should you rein it in, or should you have moments of being restrained and then show them your fancy stuff? What do you advise?
I guess it depends from audition to audition, but ultimately all we can be is be ourselves. This is the one thing I've always said to everyone. All we can be is be ourselves, right? So there's no point in like just going crazy. Orphy, do you agree? Like,
totally agree.
can't, you know, like, of course, if there's a moment and it naturally feels like you meant to do that, but playing together means playing together. And I don't book musicians. I don't put musicians on my records that overplay. No way. For what? You know,
the song tells you what it needs. The song tells you what's acceptable.
Amen. That's a quote right there.
You know, a good musician will hear that, that story and fit that. That's what you want, because you've been invited to something because you obviously must be of a standard anyway. So it's how you gel within that music that makes that person right for that situation and that band. So the showing off thing, that's for home. I don't know. That's not really required. You know, that's not it. You know, you play to the different levels. We underplay, we move up, whatever works within that situation. I mean, obviously, you know, if you're called as a soloist as well, you don't overplay. You know, you fit the language. You know, if they're speaking Japanese, you don't start speaking Icelandic. It doesn't make sense. So you fit that story. I've always been about the team. I'm really a team player person. So bands always excited me. Doesn't that band sound amazing? How did they get all those people to sound just like incredible? And in that moment, they all hit that chord together. And it's just like, wow, you know, that's my thing. That's what I get off on. We can all navel gaze, is it, and all of those things, and you know, go on the journey for the lost chord. You know, that's another thing.
You know, so this is, I've been saving this one for you guys. So this is what really fascinates me about what you guys do. So obviously, being a singer, I predominantly always get the main melodies. Okay, I'm like, ta-da, mine go out the front. But you guys find these incredible hooks and these other melodies that almost take a second seat in place. How do you find these incredible melodies that don't distract away from the lead melody, don't take anything away from it, don't clash with it, don't rub it up the wrong way, and sit in harmony behind it? David, don't know if you want to answer that one.
Well, I guess I mean, being a violin player, it's kind of a solo instrument. It's a bit like being a singer. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello? So, no, I mean, even I can't sing, or I sing very badly, but I still, the violin is a very singing instrument. It's a soloist. Used to be like, it's like an electric guitar. I don't know. It's a very, you know, lead instrument. So also the way, and so I think I am naturally trained to hear melodies and work with melodies. But even on an arranger, from an arranger point of view and composer point of view, I like to think horizontally rather than vertically, rather than chords. I like to think of melodies that intertwine or whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So so I like when an arrangement goes on on melodies on different levels. You know, there is the bass melody, there is like the horns melody. There is a lot of and yeah, they have to sit to serve the whole. You know, when you think of Mozart and he wrote the violin concerto and he wrote the piano sonata, he wrote the whatever, the trio, the rondo, but all that served the opera. I mean, really, a big composer there was working towards an opera. That was his biggest thing. So, you know, everything else was almost like a study. You know what I'm saying?
Fascinating.
So it's interesting now, right?
Yeah. I mean, for me, when you think about it, I mean, think about just the verb, Bittersweet Symphony. I know that's not from their, obviously, original track, but they took that string line because it's so hooky. Ba, 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 ba. You know, I mean, that whole thing. Da, 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 da. These hooks can be as infectious as melodies. I mean, they really are powerful, these hooks that you guys are creating. So how can our listeners, if we were trying to encourage them to make more and to reveal how to create those, how do we get those kind of hooks? I don't know if anyone wants to take that.
For me, it's all about a conversation. You know, it's a duet, regardless what instrument you're playing. You know, me as a pianist, David as a string arranger, it doesn't matter. But it's always a back and forth, you know, and we're singing the same song. And I think if you always bear that in mind, when we're having a conversation, I need space to say what I need to say, and then I throw it back to you. It's the same in music. Music is just talking, you know, and just so constantly bear in mind, like give the voice space when it needs to, and then the second you can sense that it's coming to an end, that phrase, bam, let's do something to fill that phrase in a beautiful way and to kind of complement and to basically respond. You know, it's question and answer, tension and release. You know, that's what music is. It's a conversation.
Interesting. What about you, Orphy? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I like to think that, you know, because the percussion role, particularly in a lot of things, can be at the back, you know, can be supporting. I like to think of it like a bed of rice, and then there's this lovely food that goes on top. But it all makes sense when it has that bed of rice. Okay, so it's fulfilling that particular role. Don't know why I'm thinking of food. Anyway,
I am now, thanks.
but also, yes, the ebb and flow and the tension and release and all of those aspects that make fantastic music. It's all conversations that are supporting that main thing. So we're all playing melodies. Yeah. You know, we might give them names as harmonies and counterpoint and various different things, but we're all playing melodies and hopefully helping that conversation so that the listener can pick up those things as well. And that we're not sort of, you know, I'm playing and go, yeah, 13th, 11th, yeah, sharp, you know, not doing that. You know, I'm going, whatever. And if it just needs a little sprinkle, it's fine. I'm happy to do that. Some of the greatest records have been the most minimalist things anyway. So, you know, and I know even the role of, if I'm playing vibraphone or something, Motown had, I mean, as we know, thousands and thousands and thousands of songs and fantastic artists, and the bands that were playing, all those musicians, you'd hear vibes in there. It might be just some little, you know, one little chord in the whole tune. But it works. It doesn't have to be, we don't have to be all over everything. So, you know, I'm very much sort of, I always think of it as the supporting, and does it work at the end, and does it convey whatever it needs to. As a musician, you might listen to, so when I work with students, you know, I'll say, you know, just listen to the bass. What was the role of the bass within this? You know, was it the root? Was it this part? Was it that part? Was it a repeated thing, ostinato that everything else worked on top of? And that, you know, it's really kind of zooming into things and really listening and understanding how they work. And then you have those other sort of moments. So you were talking about the melody there and having that top thing. And, you know, as an instrumentalist or a soloist as well, I've had those moments where you're right at the front and everything is backing you, an orchestra or something, or even twin, because I toured for 12 years now with Nigel Kennedy, the violinist.
Yes.
There's been things where I've had to be there with him, soloing together or playing the melody together, or, you know, sort of various different things. So it's looking at all the different roles and how they work. I think, well, I'm just always high on music anyway, so yeah.
Probably you're all guilty of that. For me, the reason why I was asking this question is I've kind of newly started. Well, I dabbled years ago at doing a little bit of production, but I remember years ago someone always said to me in Nashville, just play to your strengths and find other people who are what you're A at, find other people who are A at their individual things and mix with those people. So I definitely let a lot go, like my guitar playing and all my other things. But I was messing around doing some string lines the other day, and I have to tell you, it was like when I'd finished, when I was so excited, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And by the time of it was the only thing you could hear in the song, because it had absolutely drowned out anything else. It just got too big, too extravagant. And I realized what a skill that is to do something subtly that's still hooky and sits there. And that is freaking genius talent to do that. Because mine was just dominating in a really horrible, bad way. It's so are there, how do we learn if this is not something maybe that's a natural immediate to ourselves? Can we educate ourselves to learn to be better players on our recordings, the parts that we're doing? Are there people that we could recommend for people to listen to? I mean, Quincy Jones is amazing. I mean, who else could we, you know, obviously anything by the Beatles. I've seen Max Martin's arrangements are really good if you're into pop music. So are there people that you think, guys, that could help people out here?
You mean in terms of records or something?
Yeah, just for reference.
There's so much. It's so much.
I don't
even know.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many people to listen to, and there's so many people that work in different genres and areas.
I'm discovering things all the time. Sorry, Orphy.
Yeah, totally, all the time. I mean, I'm loving the internet. You know, on tour, I'm always on YouTube, just clicking and listening, clicking. I'm forever trying to find.
Do you know what?
Things. So
perhaps if I can say something about that, rather than looking for something mindlessly, I think you have to be true to yourself and really see what you like. If you like something, like let's say you like hip hop, you know, you just go and really, you know, you just, there is so many artists, like nowadays Kendrick Lamar is doing amazing records, you know, Kanye is doing amazing records. There is all these, plus then there is all the old school, and then you start from there, and then you, at certain point, you will figure out who did that arrangement, and suddenly you kind of focus on that. It's so, you know, for instance, Kanye West did some work with the Philadelphia sound, you know, then you get into the Philly way of arranging, you know, and that is just a universe, you know. I mean, I go into, because of the records that I love, I just go into Serge Gainsbourg, which by the way, he has influenced so many artists like Portishead, I don't know, you name it, you know, Air, you know, this guy Serge Gainsbourg, he was great because he had his arranger Jean-Claude Vanier, which is a great arranger and composer, really made those records iconic. Like Scott Walker, I mean, if you're into songwriting, Scott Walker was an incredible genius unfortunately, he's not here with us anymore. He had this incredible arranger called Wally Stott, who did all those records, you know, Scott 1, 2, 3, 4. Those records are just beautiful. If you want to hear, you know, singing with an orchestra, let's put it that way. And also kind of a little bit, I like those records also because they're left field. But again, these are references that I love personally. But there is so much. There is the Motown reference, the orchestra, super simple in the soul. I mean, it's just so much, you know.
I mean, you work with Goldfrapp, kudos, because I mean, one of my favorite bands back in the day.
Yeah, it's great band. Yeah, they were very that's actually my first band in UK because I used to live there, believe it or not, for over 10 years, and that's how I met Alison and Will. And yeah, I was mostly involved in the live. I was a multi-instrumentalist in that band rather than being involved on the record. But yeah, and a lot of the influence came from Ennio Morricone. So
yeah,
you know, there's so much great stuff out there. As you say, the internet nowadays can show you so many.
Yeah.
So they were some of the things you're inspired by. Hannah, what was kind of, I mean, let's just take a moment to say this, Hannah. A little bit of respect here. We shouldn't have to say this. I shouldn't be saying this to you, but we are a small demographic in the music business, us ladies.
Mm-hmm.
And so kudos for you for achieving all the things that you have done.
Thank you.
And achieving, because it is still a little bit of a man's world, although it's changing, and that's a good thing. But I mean, who inspired you? Who were you listening? Were there any women that inspired you?
You know what? When I first, well, I think we're all the same. When we first fall in love with music, we don't even think like that. You know,
True.
we just listen to these records and we're like, holy shit, what is this? And how can I even have 1% of that in me? That's it. You know, like my first jazz records were Miles Davis, Coltrane, McCoy Tyner, and a Roy Hargrove record, 2 tapes that my big band teacher gave me. And that was it. That was a wrap for me, you know? And I was hooked. So I agree with what David is as well saying. It's like, whatever you love, whatever you resonate with, research the lineage. History is so important. Learn from the greats, man. We don't, listen, all the great records are out there. Sit down with them, study the records. Like Orphy said, just listen to the bass, just listen to the drums. Listen, play along. I learned so much. Like for me, I learned so much about music from Aretha, straight. Her bands are insane. Her arrangements are insane. Her piano playing is so unique and so beautiful, the way she accompanies herself. And then if she's not playing, it's Donny Hathaway playing. It's insane, you know? You've got the best musicians. So for me, personally, because that's the kind of music I've always been drawn to and I love, I just learned from, you know, those artists, from Marvin Gaye, from Aretha, from Donny, and all the jazz artists. So whatever you're into, take the time, respect the music, respect the people that came before you, and do your homework. I think that's so important, and sometimes I'm missing that nowadays when I go into studios, and I'm just like, you don't even know these classic records, you know, like.
Yeah.
We have to respect the greats that came before us, because if we're trying to emulate that, we need to know about them, you know.
And here's a really important point you're making without even realizing, is the fact that Hannah V's played with Riri and she listens and has done her homework on the past and has learnt this inside out. So it's just shows you guys that we don't need to just live in today's world of the modern bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the greats are listening and doing their research, so it's good because we can learn a lot, because all music is just evolving from what has been before.
Yeah.
So I love that, Hannah. Thank you.
And
Orphy, go on.
No. And I was just gonna say, I love modern. I make modern music. I make hip hop. I make R&B. I love modern music. You know, but I know where it all comes from, or I'm trying to every day keep learning about where it comes from.
Keeps you fresh, I think.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Orphy, what about you? Who are like your influences?
Okay.
I mean, you work with Courtney Pine. I mean, God, your discography is ridiculous, Orphy. The list is
some good people.
Oh, you have indeed.
No, I think my first sort of forage into really listening to productions and composing and arranging was Stevie Wonder. I took probably a year out when I was changing from a funk musician to fully go over to the jazz thing. I took a year out, and there was Talking Book, Fulfilling This First Finale, Inner Visions, The Music of My Mind, and obviously Songs in the Key, where that was it. I just immersed myself in everything to do with that. So obviously Stevie was a big influence. And then you have the Duke Ellington. Duke Ellington, even today, sounds fresh. Some of it. It's just like, you know, I played something on my radio show on Sunday, and I was just listening because it seemed like he just recorded this last week. It was so fresh, this thing. So there's that. And then obviously there's people like Charles Stepney, Earth, Wind and Fire. Charles Stepney was a big influence in all of that with Maurice. Arif Mardin did so much. So yes, there are lots of different people for different things. You know, I love listening to the way that, what was the thing the other day? I was getting excited about a reverb. This is so pathetic. So there was a song, it was Jam and Lewis production on some Change band or something like this. And all they'd done was the reverb was dark in the verses and then kind of opened in the choruses. And I got so excited. I was just like, oh, wow, you know. You know, so there are many different things that we can listen to and really kind of explore, you know, different sounds in our own development of hearing things. There are younger people. There's a young musician, composer, producer, Ronell Shaw in the UK, who does some fantastic stuff. I've just done some sessions for him, and wow, what a mind! What a break! I mean, really good stuff. So yeah, you know, we're always learning. We're always moving forward and learning a bit more, and you know.
If you guys, just quickly, oh God, the time. Have you seen the time? We've got like 7 minutes. Oh, it's gone like.
Oh.
If you were starting now, how would you kind of like, Andrea's kind of looking for some info on this, but how would you kind of meet other people to be working with right now if you were starting in today's industry, like in this climate that we're in right now? Because I don't think the thing is they want to use other labels. I think the thing is, Andrew, the only thing I could say very easy is it's going to be baby steps. There's no way to go straight to the end goal. But so the first goal is to start working with people. So how do we get to that, guys? Any thoughts on how we meet people? I mean, obviously go to Ivors events. Orphy and I both sit on the Ivors Academy, and we're there. So and we go to events. So come along, and we'll be there.
I mean, there's always courses. There's the thing about, you know, when you're young, you're fearless. And to go into all kinds of situations, even if you fall flat on your face and all of that, we've all done it. We've all been there. You know, you pick yourself up and go, right, I'm going home. I'm going to get that together. I'm going to learn what it is they did in that turnaround and this thing, whatever that is. So I think just to go out and expand your, I suppose we call it network now, just expand your network. And that, you know, as a youngster, I would go anywhere to listen or to try and learn something. And I think now with the added thing of the internet, that there's so much there as well from right across the world internationally, and that you can listen to. You haven't got to just stay in one sort of zone. You might play in one area of music, but as much sort of weapons that you've got in there with you is the thing. You know,
I mean, there must be some jam venues around once we're let back out. And are there some venues in London, Hannah? Do you know about that?
Probably. You know what? I've never been a fan of jams because I find again, it's like an audition. I don't like it. I don't want to go up for one song and be like, especially as a female, there's always like, you know, you feel a bit weird, you know. So, but of course, they're good jams. I'll email you once I think of them. But for me, one main thing is work with your friends. We always want to be in bigger rooms. I'm the same, and this took me a long time to learn, because always used to think, why can't I work with so-and-so? Why doesn't so-and-so want to work with me? Who cares, man? If you can't get into a room, build your own room with your people.
Exactly.
What I've realized now is the jobs I get are from friends, or from genuine relationships. It's not just about the music. It's the people I book. They're my friends, you know, because not only are you amazing at what you do, we also get to chill, and then afterwards we can have a drink, and it'll be, you know. So it's so important to really invest in your friendships, in your relationships, in your musical surroundings just around you. You know, like those are the people that you'll grow with. Those are the people you can make the mistakes with. Those are the people you can be in crappy teenage bands with. You know, like look around you and nurture those relationships, because eventually at some point you'll be giving each other jobs. Simple.
Yeah.
I love that, Hannah. I do. What about you, David? What do you think?
Yeah, it's difficult because I haven't been in a jam for like
Well, no, I'm talking about
30 years.
how you.
Well, it's very intimidating. It's very intimidating. No, well, I don't live I live in Copenhagen now, you know, and which is different. There is a quite actually healthy jazz scene. There is a jazz festival. It's quite big. There is clubs. I don't think there is as much as culturally. I think London is, you know, it's like, well, at least what it used to be in New York or LA. I don't. But London to me is always a special place because the diversity between cultural and music. I mean, it's just so great. So I don't know. I think though what Anna was saying, you know, friends, making music with friends, and also to develop your own language. You know, if you study, if you listen to yourself. I mean, to me, it's 3 basic rules. Really, is like find your own voice, learn to understand, play everything, or at least understand everything, and then be able to do that, because it requires a certain technique, whether you are a producer or a instrumentalist or a vocalist. You need some type of skill, and that's your language. It's like learn how to talk. I mean, I'm not coming to this conversation with you guys and just blah blah blah, you know, gibbering, you know what I'm saying? Well, kind of, maybe, you know, but for instance, you know, as an Italian, I had to learn English because just the way it worked for me, in order to communicate with many musicians that I loved, and just the way the world was built, it was to learn English, you know. So that's an interesting one, you know.
And to add to the jam session thing, in that not all jam sessions are those type of jam sessions we know where they all come to show off a tune or something. I mean,
Correct.
in response to that, organise a jam session where tunes are banned. Forget your real book. This is the real book. Basically, we are improvising. Musicians are going on the stage, there's different combinations, and improvising in the moment for like 10 minutes each group and that sort of thing. We found we were voted one of the top 6 jam sessions.
Wow.
Because we banned all of that. 60% women on the stage and in the audience, because it's got the macho thing as well.
Yeah.
That's the idea behind it. You know, you're 251, this is 911, you know, you're just in that moment. And out of that, I've noticed a lot of people working together from those sessions. It's the one thing that we run at the Vortex Jazz Club in London, usually the second Monday of each month. But yeah, we ban all of those usual things because, I'd seen enough of all of that. It's just so boring.
Right.
Something else. And so we have artists there painting and, you know, all sorts of things happening.
Fantastic.
So there are those things around if you want to, you know, kind of just trawl through all the different...
I want to meet you guys next time I'm in London. I want to have a coffee.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I was just thinking, I want to sit and get records out with you guys. I want to play records each person and go around the room. I was thinking, how fabulous would that be? We'll definitely have our coffee, David, next time you come, which we'll arrange a little get-together. Yeah. But guys, we've hit 12 o'clock. I can't believe it. It's literally gone so fast. But I cannot thank you all enough. Your knowledge and wisdom is going to be so helpful and benefit some of our younger community watching this. But also, I just wanted to say, have you got any final thoughts for everyone today, Hannah?
Yeah. So the main thing I learned, and I touched on it briefly before, is we have to 100% be who we are. I spent a long time when I first got signed as a producer and I was signed to a dance label. I was embarrassed about being a jazz pianist. So, because I was just like, it's not cool, it's not cool. I'm such a geek, me and my harmony, you know? And years later, the same DJ that signed me was talking on radio. He was playing one of my tracks and he was saying, she's the best pianist I know. And I was thinking, it was all in my head. Nobody was telling me that I was uncool. I just assumed that I'm working. So the point is, we are who we are. Let's own it. You know, if you're a string arranger and you like crazy string arrangements, that's you. Go for it. If you're a jazz pianist, that's me. You're gonna hear that in songs. You're gonna hear an element of it. You know, so don't be afraid to be who you are, even if that's not what you see around. Don't be afraid.
Love it. Who wants to go? David or Orphy? Go on, Orphy.
And I would add, be nice.
Yes.
Yeah, and be fun. Make the session fun.
Be fun.
What about you?
Everything that Anna said just now.
Yeah, really. What can you say? I feel very blessed that I'm a musician. I think we are really, we belong to this. I mean, I don't want to say this, but I don't know how to say it. I just think it's such an amazing community, especially this day and age when we see all this crap and depressing things in the world. Music to me has always been a way to grow up, to break barriers of any kind, you know, and you can be, and you know, I feel you guys, because there is, you know, obviously for girls it's harder, but you know, I feel whenever I did work with musicians, I don't really look neither sex or the color of their skin. Is just one big is amazing to me, you know. We're really privileged with this. You know, we can I mean, music can really teach. I know it sounds a bit naff, but really can teach and heal
Absolutely
everything, you know what I'm saying?
Sorry, Orphy, did I cut you off when you wanted to say something?
No.
Sorry, hun.
No. I'd said it.
Hannah. No, guys, thank you so much. And to anyone listening, I just want to say something so that you realise. So Hannah, I met on a panel. This is about the truth of how you meet people. So Hannah, I met on a panel with Michelle Escoffrey. We did one for an educational one. We gave our time. And I just thought she was awesome. So we stayed in touch. This was never even intended that this was going to happen. Yeah. David, I met through a friend because some friends kept saying how brilliant and what a genius he was. And I was a fan anyway. And then we ended up getting to work together. And Orphy, I just absolutely adored from the minute that I met him at the Ivors Academy. We just clicked. And we always end up having a glass of wine. We were judges on the Ivors committee last year, wasn't it, Orphy?
Yes, yeah.
So now I think we're in the diversity group. So it just shows you never know how you're going to meet. You know, just make some friends, because you never know when that's going to come into plan. What the universe has in store for you. So anyway, thanks everyone for joining us this week, and we'll see you next week. And
thank you so much for making this happen.
Thank you. Great to meet you.
Bye.
Great to meet you, Dan.
Great to meet you all.